to Charleston City Hall. Thank you all for being here this afternoon. I'd like to call this Public Safety Committee meeting to order for June 10th, 2025. It's 4:00 p.m. If you would, let's just please take just a moment of silence, please. Amen. Thank you. All right. First on our agenda, we have the minutes from May 20th, 2025.
Move for approval.
Move for approval.
We have a motion to approve and a second. Any additions, deletions, any comments on the minutes? If not, all in favor of approving those minutes, please say aye. Aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? The ayes have it. Minutes have been approved. Next on the agenda, we have the police department asking for an approval to enter into a contract between the city of Charleston and Turn 90 in the amount of $85,000 to
Move for
offer.
approval.
Second.
All right, we have a motion to approve and a second. Any further discussion on that item? If not, all in favor, please say aye.
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 Any opposed? The ayes have it. Police Department is also asking for an approval to enter into a law enforcement assistance and support agreement between the
Move
City
to
of
approve.
Charleston Police Department
Second.
and Dorchester County Sheriff's Office. We have a motion to approve and a second. Any further discussion? All in favor, please say aye.
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 Any opposed? The ayes have it. All right, next up on our agenda, we have approval to enter into an animal services agreement with Charleston Animal Society. And I think I'm going to call on Melissa Cruthard, if she would, please.
Good afternoon. Before you today is an agreement with the Charleston Animal Society. I would like to say that we have Joy Huber, who is Vice President and CFO of Charleston Animal Society, as well as Aldwin Roman, who is Vice President and COO, and via Zoom, we have Beth Palmer, who is their attorney. So if you have any specific questions to them, they are here to answer that for you. As to what I am presenting, this is an agreement with the Charleston Animal Society. So the short background is in 2019, the Charleston County ceased financial responsibility for all municipalities in regards to the services provided by the Animal Society. And this agreement is the culmination of subsequent years of negotiation to take care of the animals within the city boundaries. So a couple of highlights. The initial term is retroactive to January 1st of this year through December 31st. It renews automatically on 1-year terms. The city will pay an annual fee to the Animal Society in 12 monthly installments based on the Animal Society's projection of the average cost per animal. For 2025, the average cost per animal, according to the Animal Society, is $543. The fee for 2025 projected fee is $991,518. Every year, we pay the projected annual fee in 12 monthly installments. And any redemption fees, which are impound or quarantine fees that the Animal Society collects, will be remitted to the city of Charleston. Monthly, they provide us a report on the number of intakes and the outcomes. And annually, they provide us additional information such as the date, place from where the animal came from, the reason for them coming into the Animal Society, and a description of the animal and a record of its final disposition.
Mr. Chairman, if you don't have any objection, I'll move for approval for discussion purposes.
We have a motion to approve. Do we have a second? All right, we have a motion to approve and a second. We will further discussions. Mr. Mayor.
So I looked at the invoice that was submitted. I was a little confused. I mean, I get the unit count of 500 and was it 543?
543 per animal.
Per animal. When the invoice was submitted, it gave a number based on the type of animal that was, I guess, estimated, and then the unit count, well, the unit price but then it just said the sum column was 82,000 equal monthly installments. I'm assuming that was what it equated to get you to the 9. But the invoice frankly was a little confusing. So is there somebody that could speak to that?
So the first column on there would be the animal count. The
Right.
price is the 543. The 82 is the actual monthly installments. So yes, that might be a little confusing, but to get to the 991, that 82,000 is the amount you would pay per month. So
I'm
we can
well aware of
take-
that. I guess,
We can take the 543 out of there because that's going to confuse you. We can say that and I don't have that in front of me. If it would make it easier for you, we'll just give you the number of animals that come in that will tie to that detailed report that we give you. And then your monthly cost. And then at the end of the year, when we're doing the animals counts at the 543 to reconcile it back, because if there's an overage or underage, then we're going to have to reconcile that at the end of the contract year.
right, and it's an annual renewed contract. So if for some reason there's disputes over that reconciliation, we have the ability to opt out at that point.
If the parties cannot come to an agreement for the next year's projected annual fee by December 31st, the contract automatically terminates.
And then so again, I think that we can clarify I get the unit count, that's based on last year's actuals, right? Collections.
Yes.
And then getting clarity, and there's some nuance here that we're gonna have to work with the police department on and our animal control officers to make sure that, you know, in this, because we're each paying what we pick up in our respective municipalities, so we ain't going to Mount Pleasant or North Charleston or county to pick up animals, despite what the call is. Burden's gonna fall on them, which is, I guess, a big shift in operations on how they have been going, because we've been sharing that for efficiency's sake. But I think that's the only solution. And then the last question I had in terms of just logistics, you know, if a dog is lost and it's picked up and it goes to the facility here, but the owner comes and picks it up, you know, 10 hours later, is that factored into the 543 versus them keeping it for however many days or weeks?
I will let Altwin answer that question.
So the 543 is an average based on all of the animals. So some will cost less than 543, but others will cost significantly more. So that is taken into account.
That's the average.
Yes.
Okay. Those are my questions.
Councilmember Seekings.
Well, just to follow up on the mayor's question, if you don't mind. So if in the scenario that the mayor just described, there's a lost dog, wayward dog, whatever, and they bring him in and the owner comes later, do you send the owner a bill?
Some depends on whether the animal is already altered or not. There are ordinances that if you want to reclaim your animal not sterilized, you have to pay a certain fee. If you choose to get it sterilized, then the fees are different. So there are redemption fees based on how long the animal was in the shelter. We do our best to work with owners that may be financially struggling to get the animal home. The goal is to have the animal in the shelter the least amount as possible, but also to address any overpopulation issues with.
Well, hang on, I'm
City.
gonna get to that. So if an animal comes from the city of Charleston, is a lost animal, spends a couple days with you or 3, well, however long, and you bill back the owner of the animal, do we get a credit for that?
We are, with this contract, redemption fees are given back to the city.
Okay, so we'll get an accounting of redemption fees as well.
Yeah, on a monthly, I believe the way the contract written on a monthly basis, we'll turn those fees back over to the city.
Who bears the burden of you for giving the redemption fees, you all or us?
Sorry, say that.
So if we're getting redemption fees back, but you told me in certain instances, sometimes you'll waive the redemption fee
Well,
if there's financial hardship?
we won't waive any that are required by law.
Okay. But if you do waive fees, do you eat them or do we get charged back for them?
If they're, we don't waive any fees that are required by law. So if we're waiving something, it's a, but no, those are not credited back.
I get it. The 543 that we're paying though is not 100% fees that are required by law, is it? Is that what the average is on fees required by law?
The 543 is our cost to care for the animals on
Right.
average, yes.
Right. So on the redemption fees, you don't give up whatever is required by law, but there must be other fees associated because our 543 is in addition to what's required by law, right? It's just the average cost of you carrying it.
Yes.
So do we get a credit back?
No, not with this contract.
Thanks.
If no one else does, I've got a couple of questions, if you don't mind. With your trap, vaccinate, alter, return animals, if a citizen brings in a cat for that particular program, what does it cost that citizen?
It doesn't cost the citizen anything.
Okay, so that's a free service, but if Officer Bales brings in a cat, what does the city have to pay?
Oh, it does, sorry. The cost of the city is the same whether a citizen or animal control brings it in.
Okay, so the city has to pay $5 for the trap program and neuter spay program. The city has to pay $543 on that?
That's correct.
Okay. But there's never any charge never any charge to the individual that's bringing in, that's a free service. Well, I shouldn't say free service. The city has to take all of that responsibility.
That's great, but the person bringing in the animal, that's not their animal. It's essentially a stray cat. The spaying and spaying or neutering, vaccinating, microchipping, returning is just, that is how we are coming to a humane disposition.
Okay. That sure is expensive. That's a high percentage of what was on that chart for last year anyway. A pretty high percentage that the city's having to pay for that.
I do want to say if you factor in the neonatal kittens, which are often come in when they're anywhere from 6 days old to a couple weeks old, those end up staying in our care much longer and require much care. A dog that may have been hit by a car, or those that stay in our care longer, those costs are dramatically higher. Anyone who's taken their dog to the vet just for a regular checkup, it's not low, and that does balance out with the average cost of care. So it does, yes, the cost for a trap, vaccinate, alter, return cat is lower, but it balances out with the other ones. And that's why we come up with the average cost of care based on our actual costs.
Okay, thank you. Mr. Mayor, do you have something?
Follow up on that. So just for clarity though, when I met with you all several months ago, it was interesting to know, and I think it's important for the committee to understand that, at least in the chart that was shown to me, the average unit cost was within market of other municipalities in the region. I think you referenced maybe Greenville or some other cities in South Carolina. So that made me feel a little bit better. But just for clarity, and I want to validate this here, in terms of coming up with the average and the means and methods for doing so, is that an industry-wide standard so that y'all aren't coming up with your average in a different way or format than Greenville? Or, I mean, assuming there's an industry-wide standard on that.
Yes, I mean, we are taking the number of animals that came into our facility and the cost to provide services to those animals and dividing it. It's very simple. And that's what we asked of when we were looking at Greenville and those, that's how we asked them for their cost of care. What is the cost for you to save an animal's life or to care for an animal? Yes, and so Beaufort County Animal Services, that's a government facility. Their average cost last year was $567 per animal. Greenville County Animal Care, that's a municipal facility in Greenville. Their average cost of care is $712. And then Palmetto Lifeline is Columbia. They're private. They're not a municipal facility, their average cost is $708. So ours is lower in an area that has a higher cost of living.
And to follow up on some of that, on that, the trap vaccinate, not vaccinate, but to alter return animals. What, the cost of the city is $543 for that. Is that correct?
That's correct.
What is the pure cost for Charleston Animal Society to do that?
I'd have to look, it depends. Now, I don't know the actual cost.
Is it close to $543?
It really depends on the free roaming cat. Not every single cat comes in and goes out, within a day.
What percentage do you think come in and go out?
It's hard to say. Some come in identified as a free roaming cat. Some come in as just a stray cat that ends up being returned because we determine that it's feral. So not all of them come in and out. I don't know the actual true cost. I can say if you take a cat to a private veterinarian for just spay neuter services, you're going to be spending at least $300. That doesn't include vaccinations, microchipping, ear tipping, the veterinary exam that the animals get as well.
Okay. Any other questions? Okay, go ahead, Councilman
So a
Seegers.
couple more questions. Do you have similar agreements with all the other governments in Charleston County?
We do have one with a similar agreement with Mount Pleasant. And then we have a separate agreement with Charleston County for the unincorporated areas.
What about like Kiowa, Seabrook, James?
Kiowa, those are pulled into the unincorporated areas of Charleston County. Anyone where if you call 911, the sheriff's office shows up, those are covered by the county's
And
contract.
so the county, do you have a similar agreement on a per animal basis with Charleston County?
We do. I will say the contract negotiations with the county are very contentious and political, and but yes, we do it as a per animal.
Do you have a contract with them?
Yes,
How much do they pay per animal?
467.
Why is there a difference?
That was based on them wanting to have the exact same agreement with pet helpers. That does not, and there are clauses within that contract with the county that allow us to seek additional reimbursement for emergency medical services, extended hold times. So the 467 is not inclusive of those additional invoiced items that we would be invoicing on a monthly basis.
Between the city and the county, who has more animals that are brought to your shelter?
It's similar. Yeah, I believe last year it was about 1,800 animals from the city of Charleston and no, sorry, it's not similar, I apologize. And Charleston County unincorporated is about 2,700 animals.
And we were 1,800?
Yes. That annual fee is based on last year's. Our hope is that there will be less animals.
Oh, I get that.
Yeah, I'm just,
Believe me, ours too.
well, because it is a per animal cost, our hope is there are less animals.
I could add in there the trap, vaccinate, alter, return. The goal with that is to ensure that the future, we will have less animals coming into the shelter. So the more you do of that, the less you will see in the overpopulation.
Oh, I
Where
agree.
the end game is to decrease that number.
Oh, I agree. I think that's an outstanding program. I support the program. I'm just not sure I'm convinced on $543 being what it costs you to do that for the majority of those animals. I have a hard time believing that. But I love the program. I certainly do not want the program to stop. I just don't think that it costs $543 on average to do that. I think it's something that should be looked into. Anyone else? I've got another question. I've got a couple more questions, but one of them, there was a lot of charges on this statement for this year that were coming out of the Bees Ferry Veterinarian Clinic. My understanding is that that people will drop off animals in the evenings and off-hour times. Those animals may be coming from North Charleston, from Mount Pleasant, because that is the emergency shelter and known. And the city of Charleston, at least on your spreadsheet, was being charged for all of those, or well, there were several on our sheet. If you look, it'll have the address of that emergency vet clinic, the Beast Ferry Vet Clinic. I mean, if those animals are not picked up in the city of Charleston, should they be on there?
I apologize. That may have been an error. We've actually been trying to make sure that municipalities are not paying for what this essentially a transport service of picking them up from Charleston Veterinary Referral Center, I believe is what you're referring to.
That's right.
City of Charleston, because it is within their jurisdiction, the ACOs will pick them up and bring them to us. Our goal is when they get here, we actually make sure to code it as a citizen stray found animal, because that is often what it is. It is a citizen that have found it, and we code it for where it was found, and those you should not be billed for those. So if those come up, we can pull them out.
Okay.
That was probably a data error. We have the similar issue with Mount Pleasant, since they have a emergency clinic there. They will pick up stuff that is picked up in the county, sometimes picked up out of state, or not out of state, but out of the area. And we do try to code those to the citizen, which is why we spend a lot of time talking to the emergency clinics to make sure they collect all the information that we need to know where it was found, who found it, so we can provide that information for these reports.
Okay, very good. And along on that same spreadsheet, I saw that there were 12 or 13 that our animal services department looked like they had picked up, but they were picked up out of our jurisdiction, and it was listed on the chart that it was outside of our jurisdiction. Should the city of Charleston, is it because we're doing that? And the reason why I ask is, I mean, the city of Charleston is a little bit different, a lot different than other municipalities in the county, in that we have these donut holes.
Mm-hmm.
And our animal services team may go out to, for example, the subdivision of Melrose. It's probably about 65% St. Andrews Public Service District, and Forest Lakes is probably about the same thing. Pierpont, all of these areas are very similar. If our animal services picks up and it's in the public service district, if it's in St. John's or it's in town of James Island, the city of Charleston's going to have to pay for that, I guess, because they picked up the animal.
Yeah, if the officers are picking them up, we are, other than these emergency clinic ones, if they are picking it up and they're delivering it to us, we have no other way but to, this is something that your agency brought. If that needs to come from the police department as to don't pick up. I will say, whenever we get an animal, we look it up through the Charleston County GIS, or we'll also use the city of Charleston's to determine the jurisdiction. So perhaps it's coming up on GIS as something different than what the information they have. There's a little bit of that delay. But I completely understand. I live in the city of Charleston. I could throw a rock into the unincorporated county. It doesn't really make sense. But that is kind of the predicament we're in with these multiple contracts.
Okay.
Councilmember Tinkler has his hand raised.
Councilmember Tinkler, I'm sorry.
Thank you, and sorry for being remote. I'm looking at this, the breakdown of the various expense categories. Now, that was from 2024? I guess it's not entirely clear. I mean, that's the numbers we're using are 2024 numbers, correct?
Yes, we base this off of 2024 numbers. Yes, that's correct. With, I think we have is it a percentage for increased costs? Is that how we do it? Yeah.
Okay. And, I mean,
our costs last year were 522 for 2024. For 2025, they're 543.
now, I mean, are some of these categories salary expenses? I mean, obviously y'all have other services that y'all do other than these specific services. So, I mean, how is, say, salary expenses broken down between, say, services related to these, the government contracts versus other services that y'all do?
So we have 8 departments, and the only expenses that relate to the contracts are going to be the animal services and the veterinary services and the percentage that relates to the contracts. So the amount you see on there for salary expenses is only a portion of the salary expenses. It is not the total salary expenses.
Okay, and I mean, what generally, how are y'all allocating that? Just based on the, like, just revenue or expenses in general, or how is that amount determined?
It is determined by the number of staff in those departments.
Okay.
Any other question?
Any other questions from anyone? I don't know if there was anybody from our animal services team that wanted to speak on, that are online. Not sure, or from the police department. If not, that's okay. Okay.
Mr.
Councilmember
Chairman, I have to
Brady.
recuse myself from voting on this whenever that comes up, and I've filled out the form and filed it with the clerk's office.
Thank you, Councilman Brady. Appreciate it. All right, any other questions or comments? All right, if not, we will call the question. All in favor, please say aye.
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 Any opposed? The ayes have it. Thank you. Thank you, Charleston Animal Society, for coming and answering questions and speaking with us this afternoon as well. Thank you so much.
Mr. Chairman, just really quickly before they go, you all have a tough job. Thank you. I mean, it's brutal. And I hope you don't take our questioning as anything other than us doing our diligence, just like you do, to make sure that we're cutting the best deal and giving you the best chance to succeed. So thank you. Sure. Of which I think you're one, so.
All right, next on our agenda, item number 6, we have a consideration of an appeal filed by Reverend Adam Shoemaker regarding the denial and alternate location recommendation of a First Amendment demonstration permit. I'm going to read an opening statement here. Pursuant to our city code, section 25-45, any person aggrieved shall have the right to appeal the denial of a First Amendment demonstration permit to the Public Safety Committee of Council. The process for this appeal will be as follows. First, we will hear from the appellant. You will have up to 5 minutes and ask for additional time if needed. May ask for additional time if needed. We will then hear from staff in response. Staff will have 5 minutes to reply and may also ask for additional time if needed. Appellant may have 2 minutes to reply. The board will have an opportunity to ask questions of appellants and staff, including outside counsel. The board will then close the public hearing portion of the meeting for the appeal and open discussion to the committee members only. Following deliberation and executive session if needed, the committee may make a decision to uphold, reverse, or add its own conditions to the permit. A decision of this board may be appealed by any person who may have a substantial interest in any decision of the committee to the Circuit Court in Charleston County. So if you would, we will start with the appellant. I believe it's going to be, yeah, okay.
Good afternoon. Adam Shoemaker, the rector of St. Stephen's Episcopal Church. Thank you very much for fitting this appeal in on short notice. I am representative of an emerging group in the city, a group of faith leaders, of community organizers, concerned citizens who are trying to say what we believe is something important about the white supremacy that struck our community collectively 10 years ago with what happened at Mother Emanuel. And it was our hope, as we put in the application, to gather at the site of the old Calhoun Monument in Marion Square, to make some opening statements, and to proceed down Meeting Street to have a press conference on the steps of City Hall. Now, the reasons that I got back for the denial of that part of our petition was that it would be too much of a strain on police resources, as well as having to close down roads and inform neighbors, because we would be marching from Marion Square down to City Hall. The alternative presented to us was to have a march and a press conference in Hampton Park. What I guess I would like to ask this body, if you are not willing to reconsider the original petition, would be to consider whether or not we could simply have a gathering and the press conference in Marion Square. Because for us, there's something important about gathering close and near to Mother Emanuel, and of course the symbolism of where the Calhoun Monument stood based on what we are trying to say. And if it would help that we don't march and just have that gathering, I think we would be open to that as an amendment as well.
Okay. Anyone else from the group want to speak? You can certainly use your full 5 minutes if you'd like. So,
Reverend Charles Hayward, honorably retired, St. James Presbyterian Church on James Island. I'm presently the supply pastor of the Edgestowe Presbyterian Church, Edgestowe Island, and co-chairing along with Reverend Shoemaker. I think he's articulated well what we want. I am concerned about the term demonstration, and I don't think there's an intent to demonstrate. There's an intent to make an announcement to the general public, the state, and the nation, really, to be reminded about what happened on June 17th, 10 years ago. The action attached to this request is on Friday. And so this is simply a request of the city to affirm our gathering, to make a public statement through the media, and certainly to share in the struggles and react to what is race supremacy that is really taking our nation in a different direction than we feel it should be going. And so, again, I want to make sure the definition or the action is not a demonstration. It's a press conference where a statement will be made. We anticipate the gathering is an hour, a 20-minute conversation with the media. The media will ask a number of questions, and everybody will be going on their way. Then our action attached to this will begin on that Friday. And so it's not an action to be taking place on the 18th.
thank you, sir. Appreciate it, Reverend Hayward.
Mr. Chairman,
Yes, sir, Mr. Mayor.
just, can we get legal opinion? I just want clarity here. I think you all are aware that the city of Charleston does not own Marion Square. We have a lease. We have certain obligations to the landlord that have to be adhered to, particularly as it pertains to public events. So have those conditions been met?
Sure, thank you, Mayor. So with any event that takes place at Marion Square, it's going to require a special event permit and a meeting of the special event committee. And then with the 4th Infantry, it's the 4th Brigade, I believe that's the current owners of Marion Square, there's going to be an insurance requirement as well. So I think one of the responses to your request was, if you do want to go through with the Marion Square presentation or the protest at Marion Square, we would need to get you on the special events committee, which would be tomorrow. We can still accommodate that, but just be aware that those are some of the triggers that would be required because we don't own the property.
Can I just ask a clarifying question? When does the Special Events Committee meet tomorrow?
Do we know what time? 1 o'clock.
1 o'clock. And would there be any further requirement from us other than what we have already filed for that committee meeting?
I don't believe so, but during that actual meeting, there may be some requests made of you for additional information.
Okay.
But as far as getting on the agenda and being heard, I think what you've submitted is sufficient.
Okay.
For legal, if there are remaining concerns related to public safety, related to logistics, related to road closure, public right-of-ways, with this number of people, in this short order. The police department still has a say at that meeting.
Absolutely.
Okay.
They will have a seat at the table, as will the Washington Light Infantry folks. Okay.
I think we would affirm that, looking forward to our police department to be protective of us, the gathered community. We recognize that the subject matter is, will stir hearts, and we understand that a public statement against race supremacy will produce the race supremacists. And we would be glad to have our police officers stand between us and the race supremacists. We will be gathered as a nonviolent community simply to make a statement, and we would hope to be protected by those who everybody in this room would know would be armed and dangerous. And so we expect the Charleston, City of Charleston Police Department to be protective of us.
Absolutely.
My understanding is that then this committee would forward the request to the special committee.
We would certainly, if you want to proceed with sitting in front of the Special Events Committee to use Marion Square as your platform, we'll make sure it's on the agenda for tomorrow. Now, just bear in mind that if the Special Events Committee rejects the application, you still have the Hampton Park option, and we can still sit down and talk about alternatives as well. I just don't want you to think this is a one shot and done.
Well, I think we would want this committee to be voting favorably on the first request. And then help us understand why that would not be possible. And then us coming to an agreement to that, then the second option is good with Marion Square. And if there are further options, we'd be glad to talk about those as well.
Question procedurally, we've heard now from the applicant. We've had some questions answered from the mayor. Can we now hear our side of it?
Yep, that's what
Why this
I was,
application was rejected?
that's where it was headed. So we will hear from staff in response now, please. Staff will have 5 minutes to reply, and you can ask for additional time if needed.
So in our First Amendment demonstration ordinance, we have a section 2544, which provides for standards of issuance of the permit. And in order for a permit to be issued, or it says shall be issued if the following conditions are met. If they're not met, then the procedure is for the chief to either offer alternatives or the matter can be referred to special events. Some of those conditions are the conduct of the demonstration will not substantially interrupt the safe and orderly movement of vehicular and pedestrian traffic contiguous to the route. Captain Stanley, in his experience, he believes that 600 people will not fit on a sidewalk, Meeting Street down to City Hall, and then also fit on the sidewalk in front of City Hall steps. So there would need to be some street blockage and some planning for a group of that size. The conduct of the demonstration will not require the diversion of so great a number of police officers as to prevent normal police protection of the city. Again, Marion Square presents its own unique problems because of the central location in the city and the number of ways you can get into Marion Square, which potentially doubles the officers that are needed for this size of group because of the location and the safety concerns. It would also impact the CPD operations in that we would need additional officers by paying them overtime. We'd have to call in officers who are on leave to cover this detail. We need to request assistance from other agencies within the area to provide resources to us and backup. It would result in minimum staffing for other parts of the city. And we already have 2 large demonstrations the weekend prior to this that we also have to staff to accommodate them. The concentration of the people at the assembly points cannot unduly interfere with the proper fire and police protection of areas contiguous to the demonstration assembly points. And one of the main concerns here again is City Hall. This is from 9:30 to 11:30 on a Wednesday when City Hall is open, and this would basically prevent ingress and egress from City Hall should there be issues or the general public just wanting to come in and do business at City Hall. Again, interfere with proper fire and police protection. That's kind of the same issue as to the ingress and egress. And it's also a regulation that is unlawful for a demonstration to block ingress and egress to a city building. So there would have to be accommodation for that, and that's kind of why we refer these two special events. The demonstration ordinance requires that a permit be referred to special events if it requires the use of city resources, staffing, or departments beyond the scope of CPD. The closure of roads involves traffic and transportation in the fire department. Notification to the public and surrounding neighborhoods and businesses regarding traffic disruption and other impacts is handled by business and neighborhood livability department. We also, where there's a march and there's the possibility that traffic could enter into the route of that march, we use heavy equipment to block intersections to make sure that people can't plow into protesters, and that would involve our public services department. And then, of course, blockage of ingress and egress to City Hall during normal business hours affects the business of the city. And then we've already mentioned the Washington Light Infantry MOU and how we refer those to special events.
Okay, any other well, if you'll hold on just a minute, Councilman Seekings, I want to try to stay within the order that we're supposed to be, if we can. Does staff have any other comments before I turn it back to?
I'll just state that there are provisions in the ordinance that provide that the chief is empowered to authorize conduct of a demonstration on an alternate day, time, or route. And that's what we've done by offering Hampton Park. And some of the considerations there are threats of harm to public safety, free passage of pedestrian or vehicular traffic, unimpeded egress and ingress to and from city buildings, rights of adjacent property owners, needs of the public to use city streets, sidewalks, and public rights of way, and public health, safety, and welfare considerations.
Okay, thank you. Anything further from staff?
I don't believe so, but we do have the chief and we have Captain Stanley here as well if there are questions about the logistics from the police perspective.
Okay. Next, we're supposed to go back to the appellant, who will have 2 minutes to reply if you'd like. For 2 minutes.
Well, I understand the rationale for why the initial petition was denied based on the stated concerns. I will say again that for this particular moment that I think is a significant one for us here in Charleston, but I think has something important to say to the wider community, trying to do it where we were hoping to do it closer over to Mother Emanuel is why we have, tried to appeal and have this conversation. And I understand the procedure around the events permit. I will also say, and I think this is probably an issue more to take up with City Council as a whole, that it is feeling to me like recent First Amendment petitions are all getting sent to Hampton Park or Brittlebank Park. And that's all well and good, but I think there's moments when the petitioners are requesting, a more downtown location for a reason. And it feels a little bit like First Amendment petitioners are getting, pushed off to the side to make their statements. And for us, in this petition specifically, it's important to us that it be closer into Marion Square.
Thank you so much. Okay. So now the board has opportunity to ask questions of appellants and staff and including outside counsel. Councilman Seekings.
I just had a question for Steve when he was up here and looking at the bullet points in his memo. And in follow-up to the mayor's question, as regards Marion Square, in our agreement with Washington Light Infantry, do they get a seat at the table at special events, or do they have veto power? Because here it says WLI board must approve proposed uses. So that's a question, do they have veto power? They can just say no, they don't have to, they can just send a note to special events saying no. Okay.
That's my understanding.
Mr. Chairman?
Yes, sir. Go ahead, Councilman Mitchell.
Yes, I understand the rules and regulations that we have and all this, but I don't want this to get out to be something that people figure that it's going to be into a discriminating factor. And that's what I'm looking at it very seriously. Is I was here during the time of, I think a lot of you all was here during the time of Emmanuel, what happened that night. And I was out there during that time. And it was a big tragedy that happened there at that night. So I don't want this to get into a point that people feel that we are being discriminatory against anyone. And so we have to look at this very seriously. I don't know how we can do it. I know we have the rules and regulations. We have to go through certain procedures and things, but this can get very ugly for the city and get very ugly for city council too. So I'm just trying to see what's the best solution. And I don't want them to feel that we are pushing them aside and pushing them somewhere else and always in the community that they feel that we're not going to get what everybody else would get if it was someone else. So we got to be very, very serious about this and very look at it very serious, because it could cause a big backlash for us as a city. And that's just a statement I want to make. So I'm looking at it very seriously, and this have me between a rock and a hard place on this particular one.
Thank you, Councilman. Mayor Cogswell.
No, I appreciate your point, Councilman Mitchell, and certainly appreciate the applicant's position here. And this is a very solemn time as it relates to that tragedy that happened at Mother Emanuel 10 years ago. I will say, though, I'm going to speak at a forum and being on a panel specific to Mother Emanuel tonight. There's another function honoring Mother Emanuel, I believe 2 or 3 of them next week. We're going to have ability for people to come and speak at council meeting next week as well as giving a resolution relating to this. So I do feel like there are opportunities for people's voices to be heard, and I'm a big believer in the right to free speech. Now, with regards to a specific ask that we don't have complete control over, being Marion Square, and the logics that have been presented by the police department in terms of the marching, I think they're very, and I think the applicant would agree that they're reasonable concerns and conditions. And then providing alternatives. I understand that people may feel like going to another park, be it Brittlebank, be it Hampton Park, maybe pushing you to the side, but there are logistics revolving around these decisions. It is not putting into the corner. Again, as mayor, I can tell you that is certainly not the city's position to do that. We want voices to be heard, but we do have to respect that it needs to be done in a safe environment where we can make sure that public safety is paramount. So, I would appreciate the applicant being, hopefully being flexible and working with us on this front so that their voices can be heard and you can have a productive event. But there are things that we have to look at in terms of the broader picture here. And that's where this is coming from, not because we're trying in any way, shape, or form to silence voices.
Thank you, Mayor Cogswell. I guess if there's no other questions, I'll ask, I guess from our police department, if this were to happen in Marion Square, do we have the resources for it to happen there rather than in Hampton Park? And is there a major difference in what we would have to have?
question is there a difference between Hampton Park and Marion Square for the same size group at the same date and time? The answer would be yes. Marion Square would take more resources just simply because it's centrally located within the city, and there are a lot more streets surrounding, which we would have to have more manpower there to control. And, you know, we obviously have to think about, you know, counter protesters, where they're going to be. So yes, the answer is yes, it would take more resources.
Thank you. Appreciate it.
Mr. Mitchell, can I ask a question, Mr. Chairman?
Yes, sir. Go ahead, Councilman Mitchell, please.
Yes, I know we have Hampton Park, but we have to make sure that even the residents around there, because that's close to a residential area too. And when you get to that Wagner Terrace area and that Hampton Park Terrace areas and back there, we got to be very, very careful with that, because you know how they fought with the other entity with the college and having all this stuff going on. So we have to be very, very careful with that, even at Hampton Park. You know, with the because that's closer to a residential area versus anything else. What I'm saying. So I don't know. I'm just kind of pushing things out that I can see, and not to have problems arising. That's what I'm looking at.
Thank you, Councilman.
Thank you. Mhm.
Thank you. Appreciate it. Okay. We will, is there anything else from the appellant or from staff?
I guess I would say that even if it feels like I'm getting a sense of where this is going, I would still like to proceed with the Special Events Committee tomorrow at 1 o'clock.
Okay, thank you.
Let me affirm again with my brother in Christ that that's what we would do. I'm always reminded, Mr. Mayor, of the city's opportunity to speak to the nation on how to do it. And respectful of all of the details and requirements and the greater resources, Chief, that it will take. If we could see this as Marion Square, as an investment in the city's articulation of a past tragedy, and we are willing to invest in the public to tell the nation how to make this happen. That's my prayer.
Councilmember Tinkler has his hand raised.
Okay, real quick, anything else from Reverend Shoemaker, Reverend Hayward? Nothing. Anything else from staff? Okay. Okay, Councilmember Tinkler.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. I guess my question has more to do with sort of procedural. I know we've just heard from the appellant that they're inclined to go to the Special Events Committee meeting. So, I mean, are we deciding whether to affirm or reverse the decision of the police department?
Yeah, a decision of this board will be appealed by any person who, oh, wait, I'm sorry. The board will close the public hearing. We can uphold, reverse, or add our own conditions to the permit. Is how it's worded, Councilman Tinkler. Does that answer your question?
I think so. I guess, I mean, to that point, do we need a motion at this point, or?
Well, the next portion is for us to close the public comment period so that there's no more questions being asked, but for us to discuss as city council members of this committee. Okay, we have a motion to close in a second. Any further discussion on that? All in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Okay, so, anyone have anything, any other discussions as far as council members?
Again, point of clarity, to Mr. Tinkler, Councilmember Tinkler's point, we can make a motion to send this to special events tomorrow for their review and approval or denial. And if they review, and I would have, just for clarity, I want to make sure this is important, that it would be going as modified without the march down Meeting Street and meeting at City Hall. So it would just be a meeting at Marion Square. Okay. So that revised application would be going to the special events for to review and approve or deny. If they deny, then the applicant still has the opportunity to hold their event as previously allowed for in the initial application.
Which we would have to make a motion to approve, so it would be standing. The motion that we would make would be to approve the application as it's been presented to us from the police department with the conditions, including Hampton Park, right? That would go through, that would pass, and then they have the opportunity to go seek an amended application at public events, events tomorrow.
Public comment?
Yes, sir. Well,
It's closed. Well,
yeah, technically it's closed, yeah.
Since my colleague here is an attorney, I'm going to ask him to make the motion.
So moved. So moved to uphold the application and the permit as presented to us by the police department.
Second. Okay, we have a motion to approve and a second. Any other discussion?
To approve the application,
The permit as presented,
not to reverse it.
correct.
Right. Okay.
That's correct.
Sorry.
All in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed?
I
The
abstain.
ayes have it.
And then I would move, Mr. Chairman.
I'm abstaining.
Okay, Councilman Mitchell is abstaining.
Yes.
And I would move, Mr. Chairman, to send the application to special events for consideration.
With the
No more.
understanding, the revised application and the revision is that the application would be, or the event or function would be limited only to Marion Square, no march, and the same details and time, et cetera, would.
Say when you need as much time, we were going to gather during Square at 9:30 and have this press conference at 10:30. If we just gather Marion Square for the press conference,
It'd be reduced.
We're asking for 10:30 to 11:30 in Marion Square.
Okay, so a reduced time frame at Marion Square
No march.
and no march, to go to public.
Special event.
Special events, that's the motion.
Great.
Yes.
All right, we have a motion on the floor. Did we have a second on that? Okay, we have a second now. Any further discussion? All those in favor, please say aye. Aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? The ayes have it.
Same for me.
Okay, thank you, Councilman Mitchell. Appreciate that. And if there's nothing else to come before this committee, we stand adjourned.
I do. I'm out.